Welcome back to Legends in the Making, the show where we don't raise followers, we raise world changers. I'm Erin Sarles-Bauer, strategist, shamanic mentor, and mother of future legends. And today I want to talk to the parents who've been carrying the weight of the world and wondering if you're failing. You were never meant to parent from panic. You were meant to lead from peace, from clarity, and from God given authority. So I cannot wait to get in today's topic, as I think there's so much to unpack here. Why does panic feel normal, but it truly isn't? Like anytime we're feeling what we would call a negative emotion, one that where we don't feel at ease and peace, that's a moment for us to look internally to understand why does it not feel that way and what's causing that. And what do then we need to do in order to come back into alignment where we do feel at peace and we do feel at ease? And I think as a parent, I think we feel this a lot because we're thinking about our children and what's going on with them internally as well. And I think sometimes it's very easy to just want to tell them what to do or kind of override where they're feeling or what's going on with them. But we have so much that is bombarding us. We are in an information age. Information flows faster than it's ever flowed before. And it's almost hard to keep up with it. And I know oftentimes I'll be speaking with my kids and they'll be like, you just don't understand. And it's like, no, I do understand. And they're like, no, you don't. And to a certain element, I don't understand because I wasn't raised in a day and age where information was at my fingertips. We didn't have social media. There wasn't this constant comparison, the noise of, trying to make a quick buck. Like that when I went to school, and most of you that are probably parents can speak to this, we were more focused on our purpose and what we were supposed to do and where we were supposed to go, where now I feel like a lot of what's being decided, and even my kids have brought it up, is kind of like what's going to make you the most amount of money. Like we are raised in this society where we've really deemed money to be our worthiness versus understanding our worthiness, if we're truly aligned, will be the flow of our wealth inherently. And yes, there's a lot of people out there that have a lot of money that we may or may not deem as good people. So money isn't a correlation of who you are as a person, but we're raising young people to think that it is. And then we're also creating situations where they're willing to do almost anything in order to grab that quick buck. And when I think about Blueprint to Bluechip and why it's really focused on character, integrity, and discipline, and why it's focused on building habits that build long-term success and not about chasing NIL money or NIL deals, none of that's guaranteed. Like I just residing in the coaching space get so frustrated where it's like, I can guarantee you'll make 6 figures in a month. And it's always about how much money you can make versus truly building who you're supposed to be. There's a great speech out there by Denzel Washington. That's a commencement is speech. And I don't know what university or when it happened, but he talks about you don't see hearse with U-Hauls going behind him. What we accumulate on the physical 3D plane of our existence here doesn't go with us once we pass on and move on to the next life, et cetera, et cetera. It's here. So accumulation of wealth doesn't go with you when you move on. And we don't teach our kids, what's your value? Why are you here? Who are you here to serve? What are you meant to do? As a parent, I'm trying to tap into, why do you think God brought you here? What do you think your purpose is on this planet? And then I also think we've created a situation where parents are almost apathetic. It's almost like we have so much working against us, whether it's social media, whether it's YouTube, whether it's access to free pornography. Like, we have all this stuff denigrating our society. We have a cancel culture that's prevalent. If we want to stand up and say, my kids shouldn't be exposed to this, and we're just allowing this nonsense to pervade our society. I was reflecting on my own childhood, and I was like, where did my drive for good grades, performing my best, like, where did that really come from? And I have a hard time remembering having those conversations with my parents. It was almost just an unspoken expectation. I grew up in a very loving home with a sister, and she's incredibly smart, and we both just got really great grades, and it was not something that was lectured, or it was just like you understood that you were supposed to be excellent. And what did that look like? And I don't think my kids are growing up with the same standards and the same expectations. I often ask my daughter, who, is a junior in high school, like, is what you're doing a reflection of your excellence of who you are as a human being? If it is, great. If internally you're kind of going through the motions and you haven't set a high standard for yourself in that class, and you're not really working to achieve your full potential, maybe that's something for you to take a step back and look at. Not about, mom has an expectations that I get an A in every class, but what's your standard and expectation that you have for yourself? And I think we've created this society for parents now where it's almost like you either have the helicopter parent where they don't let their kids be exposed to anything, or you have the other extreme where it's like they almost are becoming apathetic and thinking that they're too much or not enough, or what's the point of having this conversation anyways? Because there's so much working against me, it's not even going to land anywhere. We don't know what they're being spoken to about in school, because the focus just isn't on excellence, learning, and becoming their best. When I think of like sitting in class, my teachers were focused on how much I was learning. I can't say that that's the same environment that our kids are growing up in right now. And what are we willing to do about it? Are we willing to be too much? Are we willing to override the cancel culture and start advocating for what will create greatness in the next generation, and not become apathetic to the world around us and act like there's nothing that we can do? Because what we can control is ourselves. And when we can change the environment for ourselves, we can change the environment for those immediately around us. And that's where the impact is felt and the impact is had. So we absolutely can change the trajectory of where we're going when we focus on who we want to be and how we want to be. And, if we're parenting from internal chaos, our kids are going to feel that chaos. They're going to feel that disconnect. And then they're also going to essentially act like they're the ones in charge. They're going to become the ones that are running the household. That old saying that, do you want the inmates running the asylum? It's like, no, we want you, the parent, to be in charge in creating structure, discipline, open dialogue for your children to excel. That is the whole reason why Blueprint to Bluechip was formed, was to take back control and to create systems and structures that help both the parents and the kids excel in this lifetime. And most parents today are parenting from reaction, not in revelation. They're not leading from how do I help my child become the greatest version of themselves. They're just reacting to whatever's going on. So when I think about where does this really start, this starts with you as the parents. The alignment starts with you, and it starts with your identity of who are you as a parent. And what do you want to give your children as their parental leader? And it's not about being perfect. It's about being present and anchored in who you are. And really understanding what's your standard, what's your expectation. We've all created really bad habits. And I think we create them very early on for our kids. Like, here's a tablet, here's an iPad, I'm busy, I've got to do all these things. And we just shove them off versus like, I want to be present and anchored in your life. And the way that I lead you is by being the best person that I can be. I think that's something else that we're having to create that maybe we didn't learn. It's not about controlling or thinking what's better for them. It's like, how do you create this open space for dialogue that they then see, I want to be like my parents because that's how they show up in the world. And when you're clear, your child is going to access that same clarity. So Blueprint teaches families to calibrate before they correct and lead without losing peace. So it's so important for families to understand, where are we currently at? And we do a lot of this work. And then it becomes, who do we want to be? What are our values? What's important to us? And then how do we create systems and processes that always bring us back to that aligned state of being that we all want to be within inside the family? It takes discipline. It takes clarity. It takes character. It takes integrity for this to really come to life. Who you are is the most important work that you do. So finding structures to bring you into alignment with that is the most important work that you can do. It's more important than what you're going out to doing. It's who are you being? And so, we oftentimes, rather than, it's interesting to watch because I do both coaching for parents and athletes and coaches in the sports realm. And then I do a lot of business consulting and leadership coaching, which is where my strategy really comes from, the strategist piece of it. And when people are in a panic mode, fix this now, like we've got to get this fixed right now, versus taking a moment and go, let's get clear on what is going on here. What is the root cause? What's actually taking place here? Let's take a step back. Let's really understand what's happening before we go act. Because if you take that step back and really get clear on why you are where you are, what led you to this place, what underlying beliefs were driving your behavior, rather than just run off and fix it. Because what happens when you're just in this fix mode is you don't really fix the problem. You're actually just creating more chaos to replicate again and again and again because you haven't taken the time to really understand what's going on and what really needs to be fixed. So that would be, you're in panic. We got to fix this now. If you come into alignment, you're acting from a state of clarity and really understanding what's going on. And then you're acting from that. You know, as parents, like, what if I fail my kids? Again, another panicked, like, energy. And your aligned version of yourself would be asking, what does God say about who they are, who we are as a family? Like, God has each one of us. A PSA, public service announcement to all of you out there, God made your children whole and complete. They are whole and complete souls. You didn't come here to complete them or give them anything. You came here as their energetic leader, their energetic guide to activate their full expression of themselves. That's why you came together. That was a God-given assignment to you to be a shepherd for this child. So you can't fail them if they're a whole and complete divine being, knowing that your job as a parent is to constantly be putting on your oxygen mask so you can then show up for them to help them put their oxygen mask on themselves. Your best example as a parent is by who you are, because that gives kids access to who they are supposed to be. And the other beauty, the other thing, panic will tell you, it's too late. Like, oh, my kid's 17, 18, oh, it's too late. No, it's never too late. This is our moment. We get to reclaim this. This is our moment to shift everything. We can shift this right now. At any moment, we get to change the trajectory of where we want to be. We don't have to continuously be the victim of our circumstances. We don't have to be a victim to the societal societal construct or the societal constraints that are inhibiting us right now. We don't have to continue to live in that. We get to, at any moment, shift and take our power back. So if you want to take your power back, if you are tired of living in chaos, you want to be living in peace, you want to be leading from peace, you want to be giving your children the tools and resources to have the best life, which is what most parents are here to do, then let's work together. How do we reset this? How do we reset our standards? How do you show up as a parent differently than your parents showed up for you? How do you teach your kids the tools, resources that they need to be the most incredible humans that the world has seen? We have the opportunity in this movement to make that change and not be victimized by what's going on. So I would love for you to connect with me. DM me clarity. I can send you the clarity compass that we use to align families, really understand where everybody is. And you can join the 5-day parent athlete reset called Raising Exceptional, where we help you pinpoint what's really going on and begin to shift from chaos to character and from anxiety into alignment. So I'll see you on the next Legends in the Making. You're not behind. You're just one decision away from leading with power again.